So we get people asking us quite often, where is the best place to start partner stunting if they've never done it before? So we thought we'll take the opportunity today, while Christine's got a hurt foot, to go over a few of the fundamentals and the best places to start if you've never done any partner stunting but are keen to give it a try. Let's get into it. If you guys haven't watched any of our videos before, I'm Cody.
I'm Christine, and we're just going to go over a few fundamentals before we get into a few ways to start partner stunting. So as a flyer, all you want to be thinking about is staying nice and still. So you shouldn't be trying to balance with your feet and throughout your body. That's what the base is doing. So to be able to stop yourself from balancing, you need to be still, and to become still, you need to engage every muscle. So if you guys are a little bit stuck on finding the muscles and how to be holding, there's a video where I do 5 exercises to help a flyer. So first thing is holding your shoulders back nice and tight. Try and think about like squeezing your shoulder blades back together here. Squeezing your core in and up, tucking your hips and your butt under, and then locking out your legs, squeezing them, and then slightly into your balls of your feet. So if you can get yourself into that position and hold and engage all your muscles, that should stop you from trying to balance and trying to fight your base. 2
very common things that happen for the flyer when they're first learning, and even like a year after learning, I still see it happen with flyers, is their feet don't stay together. So the base underneath is going to be moving around, especially in between skills. As you move in between skills, it's much easier for the flyer's feet to come apart. So don't just think about having your feet together, but think about like rolling your shoelaces in and like squeezing them together as hard as you possibly can. You want to be squeezing so hard that even if the base is trying to pull them apart, they can't. They're struggling to pull them apart, because some of the skills that we do, we might get a little bit of a funny grip, might land and might actually pull them apart a little bit, so you need to snap us back in. Obviously, as a base, we should be thinking about holding your feet together, but as the flyer, the more you're thinking about squeezing everything and staying tight, the easier it's going to be to transition between skills. Now, the other thing that flyers really struggle with at first and struggle to hold is thinking about squeezing their butt underneath. For the base, when we're underneath the stunt, we want to be looking all the way up straight through the middle of the shoulder blades. And if the flyer isn't squeezing their glutes under and they're sticking their booty out, all we're going to see is booty, and we're not going to be able to see the shoulders. So this, being able to see through the middle of the shoulder blades for the base, actually helps a lot with stability, and it also helps pull the flyer over top of us. If they're sticking their butt out, it's either going to push them forward because they're going to be dropped into their toes, or their butt's going to pull them back, and it's going to just affect that stability. So Christine's going to show you one exercise that's really good for the flyer, and the flyer should be practicing this every night to practice that body position.
So this exercise is in the 5 exercises to help with a flyer, but this just helps with everything. So it can help you squeeze your feet together, squeezing your legs, squeezing your core, pulling those hips up, and also rolling those shoulders back. So just getting a couple mats stacked up, starting with your feet, making sure they're squeezed together, just laying back, only your shoulders and your neck on the ground, and just pushing your hips up, and then also making sure your arms are in nice and tight. A lot of flyers find it hard to start with like squeezing their core, so having your arms in is going to help, okay? Because when your arms are out, they're going to actually pull you from side to side. If you hold everything in, it's going to help even stabilize your core as well.
When you're in this position, sometimes when flyers are first doing this, I'll tell them to get their butt off the ground, and they'll get their butt off the ground, but they're still dropping their butt. When you're in the air, you want to think about squeezing your glutes through, so you'll actually see she's pushing through her hips. Now, when I get the flyer to practice this, I get them to look at their toes. When the flyer's in the air, they're not going to be looking at their toes, they're going to be looking straight ahead. But at first, it just helps them to hold this position. So this is a very difficult position to hold by itself on the ground. So you can imagine in the air, it's going to be even more difficult. So at first, you might only be able to hold it for 10 seconds, but you want to be able to build up to the point where you can hold it for a minute or 2 minutes. Because your first few times partner stunting, if you do this correctly and you're practicing this the whole time, you should actually feel quite sore when you finish. Good job.
Yeah, good.
Good hold. So,
cool.
One of the ways that we help our athletes practice the balance or the stability in the air is by ground stunting. You can hold a ground stunt a lot longer without getting fatigued as a base, and you can manipulate their feet a little bit better so that you can find that stability. So the flyer will be able to practice that position, and for the base, they're gonna practice their grips. So we're gonna go over the grips really quickly. There's two grips. There's one that is the technically correct grip, and there's another grip that I learnt with and I tend to use a little bit more, which isn't the better grip, but it can be useful as well. So we'll go over those now. So for the grips, I'm gonna show you the technically correct grip first. You wanna think about making like an L shape and reverse L shape with your hands. Your hands are, you can see my fingers are a little bit messed up at the moment, so my grip's a little bit funny. But what you're gonna think about doing is placing your index finger. I tell people to place it just on the edge. Some people will actually hook their finger over, and you'll find that some shoes actually have an indent where you can place your finger. The most important thing is that your hands cover the heel and the ball of their feet. Because each base's hands are different sizes and each fly's feet are different sizes, it does change a little bit. But what I tell bases to do basically is just get it right on the edge. Some like to place two fingers there, but I go with one. So from here, you want to make those L-shaped grips. Place your first hand down so you have the index finger, and then you're going to lock that other hand underneath. Cool? I like bases to wrap their index finger over their thumb so it locks those hands together, because at first what you'll find is that you might grab this grip a lot and you end up moving the fly's feet around a lot, so they have to squeeze a lot more. If you can lock your hands together, you're going to be able to squeeze their feet together, which will help with that stability. So that's the first one. If you're traveling, if you're going from like a platform to a lib, you literally keep that same grip. They're gonna pull their foot out, and then your hands will just slide into the grip that you need. So that's one of the benefits of that grip, and you're covering their whole foot, which helps when you're doing one-legged skills if the fly goes into their toes. So the next one, still very similar, but your hand's gonna be same position, either here or in the middle, and the other hand's going to be basically over the top. Cool? You can still wrap this thumb underneath, but this grip's going to be higher. This isn't technically the correct grip, but this is the one that I use more often. I'm still trying to transfer to the other grip, but this has been much more comfortable for me. But this is the other grip that I've used. The biggest problem with this is sometimes if the fly's feet are bigger, you're not gonna be able to cover their heel and the ball of their foot, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. But the bonus with this one is if you're moving to one arm skills, because you're used to basically covering their feet with that one hand, it's a lot easier to then travel to your awesome or your QP, because you're literally just sliding that hand over a little bit and then you have the same position. So those are the two grips that you can practice. I recommend using the first one that I showed you that covers their whole feet, but you can give this one a try as well, where you have one hand over the top of the other one. Cool. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do a little bit of ground stunting so that the flyer can practice that body position that we talked about. We can get used to the grips, moving around a little bit, and just finding that stability.
As a flyer, just placing your feet into his hands, let him adjust so he can get that grip, and then a big jump over the top of his chest. We do have a video on ground stunting if you want to go in depth with it.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start moving around a little bit, and Christine's going to stay as stable as she can. She's got a bit of a sore ankle, so I'm not going to do it as aggressively as I normally would. But the goal here is to be moving, and then as soon as you stop, you should be able to find that stability without moving at all. If you're moving and then you try and find that stability and it's still moving, the flyer it may not be in the correct position, or you might have a funny grip or manipulating their ankles so that they're twisted. Just pop off the side.
So that's just focusing. If you have your whole body squeezed, no matter what he does underneath you, you should be able to hold that body position and not balance between the two of you.
One of the other things that I would do as a base is I would get the flyer to squeeze their feet, and I would then try and pull their feet apart. I'm not going to do that to Christine at the moment because she's got a bad ankle. But I want the base to try as hard as they can to pull their feet apart. They should be able to at first, but the flyer should be able to work up to a point where there's so much resistance that the base finds it extremely difficult to pull their feet apart. And then one other thing is just move around a bit. Just get used to catching different grips, because at first You're gonna catch different grips every single time, and bumping and rearranging to get the correct grip is what's gonna save you when you do start getting harder stunts. Another thing that's good about the ground stunting is that when you're in the air and you're first starting to partner stunt, as a base, you tend to move your feet a lot. It's very difficult not to. You have to learn to plant your feet and not move. Even if the flyer is moving across, you need to come underneath them, but you wanna try and like pull them back through without moving your feet. So what's good about the ground stunting is that you literally can't move. You have no choice. So what I recommend is make sure you have mats around you, or it's like soft flooring at least, so that when the fly is coming off to the side, see if you guys can save it before coming down, but always be prepared for the flyer to step off and try to aim to step off the same way each time. But that is one of the other benefits of doing the ground stunting, is like getting those good grips, practicing moving around between grips, using those shrugs to try and get a better grip, and then also being able to like stabilize without moving your feet. Because even though ground stunting is a little bit different in the fact that the fly is over your chest rather than over top of you, it's still going to help the fly with their stability, finding that body position, holding that body position between skills, you getting your grip, and then also being able to save the stunt without moving your feet. So this video is just part one of the fundamentals. We're going to try and fit it all in one video, but this one ended up being longer than what we wanted. So we're going to create a part two, which will probably go over more of your walk to hands, your toss to hands, even like pressing between skills, just to cover the next stages that you should follow to learn how to partner stunt.
Just remember, flyers, like, you cannot balance throughout all these skills. The only things that are going to change between holding your body position is coming down to hands, so breaking your feet, but you always want to be coming back to the middle, so squeezing your feet together so you're not balancing between the two. So I would just say go watch that 5 exercises for a flyer.
That one's on Instagram, by the way.
And really work on the muscles, so the muscles between your legs to hold them together, your butt, your quads, your core, and then just holding that body position by doing that exercise I showed you earlier.
One last thing that I want to just say as well, for the flyer, the body position is slightly different for partner stunting and dual base and group stunt. It's not a lot, but there is a few different things that we change. So if you're a group stunt flyer and you're thinking, okay, this sounds different to what you've learned, it is because partner stunt flying is slightly different. We will cover in future videos the difference between flying on a single one base or flying on dual or multi-base. But yeah, just wanted to point that out. If there's any skills in particular that you would like us to go over, please leave them in the comments or send us a DM. Make sure you subscribe if you're enjoying our videos or if you're finding them helpful. Also, hit the bell button so that you don't miss future videos, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video. Peace.